Much for everyone who's tuning in. Thank you so much, Jenny, for agreeing to do this with me. And for tonight's conversation, it's all about the Airtel IPO. Like you have seen, you have heard, you have attended some spaces where we have hosted the Airtel executives in Uganda for the past 3 years. We had the last IPO for MTN in 2021. Now we are having the Airtel IPO for Airtel Uganda. And we have seen the prospectus and we have read through the different research notes. I want us to talk about this today. But before we go into that, welcome on this channel. Welcome to everyone. Could you kindly greet your viewers?
Thanks a lot, Alex. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks a lot for passing by on this Saturday morning. It's always exciting to catch up with friends and dialogue on some of these what I think are very important topics, not just to us, but very many other people out there or the investing public that's looking to get into some of these products. So I really thank you for hosting me to your channel, and I hope I'll have a lot to share with the viewership, but most importantly, learn from yourself and everyone else through their comments.
So thank you so much for that. And I wanted us to start from there, that I know this video might be a little bit in late September, but we still need to highlight that to anyone who might be watching this video and you might be still on the line to think about buying the Airtel shares in the IPO market, the offer period is ending 3rd October. So this might be another way for you to make decisions. This is not investment advice. Reach out to your investment brokers. There are 6 number of registered and registered investment brokers in Uganda. Reach out to any one of them and read the prospectus and make a decision. But always remember, the offer period is ending on October 3rd. And then the allotment date, which will be the results announcement, will be on 31st October. Then let's start from there.
All right.
How have you read the prospectus? What is your take about this Airtel Uganda IPO?
Yes, I've had a fair assessment or read through the prospectus. I think to some good level of thoroughness or detail. Before I get to that, I just wanted to say it's always exciting to have new entrants into our capital markets authority. So I would commend the likes of Airtel and their competitors for, I know this was mandated by the government, but for agreeing to get through the process. Because what you do is you create additional opportunities and options for the investing public to diversify. And ultimately, this contributes to the growth of the overall capital markets authority. So putting that aside, I know many people have considered a top-down or rather bottom-up approach when they were analyzing this IPO, and which pretty much really just looks at the company, its fundamentals, all the numbers, then goes upwards. Alex, I would maybe want us to consider the alternative, which is a top to bottom approach, which essentially involves looking at how this company is positioned in the global economy, then the national economy where they do their business, which is Uganda, where this IPO is currently taking place. Then we can also look at the company itself from the top down, look at its governance, its leadership, then get down to the numbers. And that's the approach that I would love us, or that I would love to take as I give my thoughts on this IPO. So I know I just mentioned that the first step to that would be to look at the global economy, but I will probably carefully eliminate that bit because in my opinion, the Ugandan economy is less integrated at this point to the global economy. Yeah. So we can start off by just looking at where is Uganda's economy headed? What do the projections look like, and how does Airtel fit into that? Because I think this is very important for anyone thinking of investing in this IPO.
Yeah.
So first, again, looking at the prospectus and some of the numbers that are publicly available, Uganda's GDP has been revised and it shows that it will be growing at a faster rate than previously thought. So previously, and I think this was partly induced by COVID, the growth rate, long-term growth trend had been revised downwards to about 5.8.
Yep.
And that is currently expected to move at about 6.5, or rather between 6 and 6.5.
Which
Again,
is
this is
impressive.
publicly
Yeah.
available information. Secondly, I'll look at other numbers such as inflation. Again, the inflation pressure is expected to recede, getting into 2024, 2025, and so forth. And all these demonstrate a strengthening of our economy.
Yep.
The other number that I would love to pick on is our borrowing to GDP ratio, which is also being indicated to go downwards.
Yeah.
And I think recently, I'm not very sure when, but our national rating was revised upwards to a B+, which again demonstrates that there's strengthening within the economy, within which Airtel and this IPO is currently taking place. But it's also very important for me to look at these in the context of our country being a developing country that comes with its own risks that I will talk about maybe later on in this segment. So having that in mind, I think this presents very good opportunities for the company operating within this economy that I believe is strengthening.
Yep.
Going a little further, but I also just wanted to give my opinions and some thoughts on the telecommunications industry, again, within which Airtel plays. So currently the penetration within the telecom sector, and what I guess this means from the prospectus is by how much or what segment or proportion of our population is currently serviced by the telecom sector, and I think that stands at only 44%.
Yep, around there.
Yes, which means there's a lot of upside for the telecommunications industry to continue to develop and service even more of our population. Then also looking at things like our demographics, population. This is expected to almost double between now and 2050 or 2060.
Yeah.
So this only works to increase the customer base for the telecommunications industry, and now that coupled with the possible upside that is expected to happen as the telecommunications sector widens, I think this is a very good space for companies such as Airtel. But sure.
So I think you have highlighted a very good point about the Ugandan economy, where it's going, it's growing. I know you have disintegrated it from the global economy, but I know even if you look at our neighbors who you would think we are integrated to, the Kenya, the South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania, Rwanda, I think they are also growing, which goes a long way to show you how the trade and everything that's happening in the global economy might not necessarily impact Uganda, but what's happening in the region necessarily impacts Uganda.
Yes.
And you have also highlighted the importance from whatever you have said. All I'm hearing is the telecommunications industry is an important economy or an important industry in our economy. And I think that's where we should also, if you have to talk about the telecom industry, we cannot jump away from the two big players, MTN and Uganda. So far, they control almost 98, 95, 99% of the industry. It's literally, we have a duopoly, and it's not yet to be challenged. We are not seeing any player that is about to challenge them in the next 5, 10 years. And one is holding almost 49% share in voice and in data. The other is holding almost the same numbers, and in the foreseeable future, except anything. And that should bring us to the point we should start with when you have to talk about Airtel. What should someone know? When now we have moved out from the telecom industry, now we're looking at the company going forward, its governance, its operations, its strategy for the future. How does that sink into the economy we're talking about Uganda now?
All right, Alex, and maybe before I get to the company itself, just allow me to explore a little bit more on the telecommunications sector. And again, maybe just so what juxtaposing? With the economy, right? We are developing. I know I've said very rosy things about our economic development, GDP, and so forth. But we also have to remember, for someone looking to invest in this IPO and this in these companies within these economies that we are a developing country, and there are certain risks that will be inherent in economies such as ours, such as political, policy risk. What's the strength of our legal framework to protect property rights?
Yeah.
Some of the things are extremely important because you can have, best projected growth rates and inflationary pressures coming downwards. But should any of those risks materialize, all those figures could go to waste in an instant.
So let me pause you there at that point. You have talked about two very important points. Inherent risk. Someone out there might be watching us and asking themselves, what do you mean by inherent risk? But also, how do you analyze that? Either political risk, especially political risk. I know a few people have heard about that, and they want to understand, how do I analyze that in regard to the IPO? How do I analyze the legal risk in Uganda in regard to the IPO? Can we break it down to someone to understand this and how that affects or how it should impact their investment decision?
Yeah. And again, just to make it very clear, this is not necessarily to look at the political situation of Uganda as a country, but countries such as ours that are in their development stages, and you can say this for most developing countries, especially those within our continent and economies similar to ours, because we are at that phase where we are developing our democracies, developing our capital markets, developing our economies as a whole. There's always going to be that risk that we're exposed to from political uncertainty or instability, also with things changing at a very fast rate. So, for example, right now, Airtel or a lot of the telecom companies operate under certain regulations and certain policies, either mandated by the government or the regulatory, or rather regulators that regulate these entities. But because we are at that development stage and we're constantly challenging these policies, anything could change. So for me to analyze an IPO today based off of those laws and the political situation should take into consideration that I'm exposed to some level of uncertainty. A lot of this could change tomorrow, next year, the following years. And this is just by the nature of the economies and the countries within which we are and the sort of risk they're exposed to.
Yes, and I know when it comes to an investor, especially someone, a retail investor, you must always think through this and say, if the situation is to change, especially if you go into a dispute with as a shareholder, where do you go to? Are there legal avenues that can protect you? Which right now where we are in Uganda, I think we have strong legal foundations. The legal framework is getting better and better. CMA is doing a good job to trying to protect the investors in these different companies. But there is always room for growth. There is always room for improvement. And in our economies that are just growing, you cannot ignore that. You cannot sit back and say, hey, everything is good. The political risk is not remote. It might not materialize anytime soon, but it's not remote. Such things, they end up impacting the value of the company in the future. When you have to look at that, it might perform very well in 5 years. But if something happens after 5 years, that might cut off what would have been a very profitable company into a non-profitable company. Now, those are the risks which are external, which we are talking about. What about risks which are internal to the company?
And again, going back to the risks, something to note is that Airtel, which we're talking about in this instance, actually highlights them within their prospectus. So it's risks that I'm very happy they recognize as them being exposed to, and hopefully they're doing something to manage them for the comfort of the anyone contemplating or thinking of investing in them. In terms of, again, these are external risks, and unfortunately, it's always going to be very difficult to hedge. How do you hedge political risk? Maybe diversify into a different, more stable economy and so forth.
But for which most of our viewers, most Ugandans might not have that opportunity. So, if you are watching, we just have to pray the situation is. There is no way we can easily hedge political risk when you're in Uganda. It's not like you can easily go and invest in South Africa. It's not like you can easily go and invest in Kenya. Yes, you might be East African, but some of these risks are inherently born with us, and inherently we have to just allow time to play itself out. Yeah.
All right. So in terms of the internal risks, and again, that's just going down the chain when we get to look at the company, and they do highlight some of these within their prospectus. Things such as SIM card fraud, bypasses, and this again, as they define it within their prospectus, is maybe unscrupulous customers or individuals bypassing their normal channels and still accessing the signal or accessing their services without paying for them. This will just have downward pressure on their revenues. That's one of them. Then the telecom sector as a whole, again, something they point out within their prospectus, is exposed to certain idiosyncratic risks. One of them, which I just mentioned, meaning these are unique to the telecom sector by the nature of their business, by the nature of their structures and service offerings. Other, what I would maybe consider internal risks, could be operational risks, could be